Hello there, Duelists. I'm back again with another profile, and today it's Megalith on the playmat. So Megalith, Konami's 713th attempt on making rituals playable. Based on the Olympian spirits of legend, these ritual rocks have reached Olympic levels of hype, mostly due to these unfair cards and the monster boards that, they can build with the ritual, mechanic, at least until, well, hopefully these get banned, and maybe Block Dragon as well. So I've opted to play without them, which in my opinion makes the deck more interesting anyway, rather than going down the kind of generic Link route. So let's sacrifice ad revenue and dive straight into the profile. Okay, so monsters first. So the monsters make up the vast proportion of this deck profile, mostly because Megaliths actually don't need ritual spell cards because their monster effects give them baked-in ritual functionality. I don't know, I'm not really sure how to explain that properly. So Megalith Phul is a new card out of Rise of the Duelist. He's really what makes this whole deck tick. He provides you additional pluses. He's just great. So he's when he's ritual summoned, you can add back a ritual monster from your graveyard and becomes that level, which is great for kind of keeping up with your resources. In addition, he can quick ritual summon by tributing monsters from your hand or field. So, ritual summoning your opponent's turn is absolutely unreal, and really what drives this deck forwards. From there, we're playing 3 Megalith Ophiel. Actually, just quickly, both Megalith Phul's effects are once per turn, actually, which is a slight hindrance. Which the reason I'm bringing it up, because in Monday you get a lot of the effects are once per turn. Megaliths are weird in that they've kind of got 2 effects. They've got their ritual summon effect, which is once per turn, and they've got a secondary effect as well. So Megalith Ophiel can ritual summon a monster from your hand by tributing itself and other cards. But in addition, when it's ritual summoned, you can add a Megalith card from your deck to your hand, which is super great. Oh, sorry, it's a Megalith monster from your deck to your hand. Sorry, not card. Yeah, because the reason we've got that is because Megalith Hagith does the spells and trap cards. So he's almost the same as Ophiel, apart from he adds the spells and traps. And again, he has the ritual summoning effect once per turn. And then finally, we're playing one of the last smaller Megaliths, so Megalith Och. So when this is ritual summoned, you can draw a card and discard a card, which isn't that amazing. But the upside is that his ritual summon effect is quick, so you can do it in your opponent's turn, a bit like Phul's, but he isn't locked into Megalith cards. So Phul, when you ritual summon, you're locked into Megalith cards from deck. From there, we're playing some of the bigger Megalith cards. So I'm playing 2 Megalith Bethor. So Bethor, whenever it's summoned, you can pop cards on your opponent's side of the field up to the number of ritual monsters with different names in your graveyard, which obviously, when you do it on your opponent's turn, it's kind of like a semi-quick effect, is really, really good. You can disrupt, your opponent's entire board if you've got the right setup. The bigger Megalith cards also kind of act as a ritual spell card, because you basically can discard it from your hand and then tribute monsters up to the level of the ritual monster that you're going to summon. So worst case scenario, this guy's a ritual spell. From there, we're playing 2 Megalith Phaleg. So Phaleg's got the same discard effect. I'm actually not playing the final big one, which Aratron is similar to these 2, except his on-field effect is pretty rubbish. It's about targeting, disruption, but his ritual capability is quick, a bit like Och. And I was running 1 of it, and some people opt to run 3 to kind of use it as a hand trap almost, something like that, but I just think it's not very good, so I've opted to cut it. So Phaleg, it's got the same discard to ritual summon effect, but it also boosts your monster's attack and defense by 300 for each ritual monster in the graveyard, which can get to absolutely absurd heights. So the general idea is to kind of stun your opponent turn 1 and then just absolutely stick them to death using Phaleg. So from there, we're running kind of our search and support engine, which involves the incantations, so 3 Chalislime. So I'd kind of known about the incantations, but I think that when I'd looked at them, I was looking at the original ones, which are Candoll and Talismandra, and they were good, but they were, you know, a little bit suspect of not drawing the right cards and not being able to use them and stuff like that. Chalislime and the ritual spell fixes all of that. It's so good. So I think you want to hit Chalislime as early as possible. Basically, you reveal Chalislime, discard a card, especially an incantation from your deck. So from there we're playing 3 Penciplume, which is reveal a ritual monster to summon it, and you can summon an incantation from deck, and then when it's summoned from deck, you can add back a ritual monster from your graveyard. And then we're running 1 Talismandra and 1 Candoll to round it off. So Candoll has to be summoned by revealing a ritual spell, and it adds a ritual spell when it's summoned, and Talismandra, you have to reveal a ritual monster, and it adds a ritual monster when it's summoned from deck. So the reason we're playing it in this ratio is Penciplume is the one that we want to have in hand, so we reveal a ritual monster, which we have loads of. We don't have any we have 1 ritual spell, so Candoll really doesn't want to be in hand. And that way we can then special summon these 2 from the deck. Whereas if you played more of the others, you wouldn't be able to use it, because each one of their effects is only once per turn. So Penciplume is best in deck, so you can reveal it, summon another one, and then get your pluses off. From there we're running 3 Manju, which is our only normal summon in the deck, and obviously just adds us whatever we should need. We're running 3 Called by the Graves in ritual form. So Sauravis, you can discard it to negate a card that targets a monster you control, and then it's got a weird kind of like bounce effect. So if your opponent would special summon while it's on the field, you can bounce it back to your hand to negate that summon, which doesn't come up that often, but you can get it out in rare cases. And then 1 kind of, this is basically our stun, you know, our first turn stun, and what allows us to get through the first turn. So Magician of Black Chaos. So if it's special summoned, you contribute 1 monster, and your opponent can activate monster effects for the rest of the turn. It's also got a semi-decent secondary effect, which is when it destroys a monster by battle, you can target a spell card in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. Alright, so I've chosen to kind of wrap up the spells and traps just because there's 1 trap, and I just think it's pointless having a trap section with 1 card in it. So, start things off, we've kind of got our search card, so Preparation of Rites, add a level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck to your hand, and you can add the ritual spell card, but even when our ritual spell card's in the graveyard, I've often chosen not to add it, just because it's kind of better in the graveyard for it to use its effect. We've got then 3 extra Foolish Burials. So this sends Herald to the Outlight, which then, you know, searches you any ritual spell or monster. Normally, well, with both of these, most of the time I'm going to Chalislime just because it gets the ball rolling so well. Extra Foolish Burial does conflict with our 1 trap, which is a little bit sad, but doesn't come off too often. From there, we're running our kind of ritual spell, you could call it that, I suppose, even though it's a quick play. So Unformed is a really good card, actually. So you can reduce the opponent's attack of all their monsters by the number of ritual spells, the number of ritual monsters on your field, but times by 500. So you can effectively almost make them 0 monsters, you know, if you get enough ritual monsters on board. But the better effect is that you can ritual summon a Megalith monster from the deck by tributing double. So we've got 4s, we've got 8 4s and full is a 2. So we've got a reasonable good chance of getting, you know, to the bits that we want. So this isn't even a once per turn, so you know, if you've got multiples, you can just get the ball rolling. It's another starter for the deck. From there we've got 1 Megalith Portal, 1 Impcantation Inception, and then our final trap, which is Megalith Emergence. So going through Portal, it's an interesting one. It keeps our kind of resource engine going. Each time that a ritual monster will be destroyed by battle, it's not destroyed the first time, which can sometimes come up. And then when a Megalith monster special summoned, you can add a ritual monster from your graveyard back to your hand, which is not just Megalith cards. It's a good way of getting back like Chalislime for secondary turns, or maybe even Chaos Max if you need it. Inception, Incantation Inception is a really good card. And again, I think I just not really clocked how good this card is. You can ritual summon any ritual monster using only incantation monsters, which can be a little bit of an annoyance. But when it's in the graveyard, you can send an incantation monster from your field or from your hand to the graveyard to add that back, and then special summon an incantation monster from your deck, which means that you can go from Candoll to search the incantation, and then once you've used the Inception, and then once you've used the Inception, you contribute the Chalislime that you may have used to get to the Candoll to then special summon the Talismandra, which gets you another plus. It's just a really good way, and you're basically ritual summoning twice using this card almost all the time. And then finally we've got Megalith Emergence, which is kind of like a Call the Haunted, should I say. So target a Megalith monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense mode, but when it leaves the field, you've got to place it at the bottom of your deck. But it's continuous, so you can use it over and over again, and you've got to bear in mind a little bit that whenever you're using it, you can't special summon back a monster you haven't actually properly summoned in the first instance. And into the extra deck, so we're running one Elder Ancients. So it's an extra foolish burial target, and when it's sent to the graveyard, you can pop a card on the field. So that's super good for like baiting the gates and stuff like that. We're then running our two other extra foolish burial targets. So Herald of the Arclight basically just makes the extra foolish burial kind of like a Rotor-esque effect for any ritual monster or ritual spell, which is excellent. From there, the extra deck's pretty loose, if I'm being honest. You could squeeze in whatever you wanted to, and you might be able to run an Extrav board if you were desperate for it. You could easily kind of squeeze that into the main deck, although I've found the main deck pretty tight, if I'm being honest. So I run one Gallant Granite, which is probably one of the monsters that comes up the most. He's got, special summon a rock monster from your hand in face down defense position, which rarely comes up anyway, but we've got no applicable targets for that, so he's only really adding a rock monster from our deck to our hand. Evilswarm Exciton Knight is kind of our plan B, so, if you have to Evilswarm Exciton Knight and blow the board, then, something's kind of gone wrong, but it's quite nice to have the utility. Number 1 in 6 Giant Hand, just in case we can kind of field an extra, disruption on our first turn. And then we're running a little rank 8 package. So number 23, Lancelot. So this guy is underrated in my opinion, and I think I stated that on the Gimmick Pupper profile on my channel. So it can attack directly while it has External materials, and if it inflicts damage, you can target face-up monster your opponent controls and destroy it. And then once per turn, during either player's turn, if there's spell trap or monster activates effects, you detach and negate, which doesn't destroy, which is a little bit sad, and it also is not optional, so it has to negate the first thing, but it's still fairly solid, and I would argue good. From there, we're running one Dingirsu. So this is kind of a lot of our stuff is like target destroy, so Dingirsu is a way of non-target send, so it's a way of getting round problematic cards. And then I'm running one number 97 Draglubion, one number 38 Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy, and one number C107 Neo Galaxy Ice Tachyon Dragon. So if you go to our rank 8, then you go to Draglubion, who then summons either Neo Galaxy Ice Tachyon Dragon as just a massive beat stick, or Hope Harbinger as a bit of disruption. And Draglubion can't be targeted as well, so it's pretty decent. And then we've got a small link package as well, so I've got Knightmare Cerberus and Phoenix, for kind of like your pop-in, which I think, again, it's very rare that you'll go to this. And then Cross Sheep, which, if a ritual monster is summoned to a zone it points to, or special summoned I think it is, to a zone it points to, you can draw 2 cards and then discard one, which is, fairly decent. And then Nephthys, the Sacred Flame, which is actually one of the more common cards in the extra deck that I've been going to. So basically, it can't be destroyed by battle if you've used one ritual monster. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effects and it gains 1200 attacks. It becomes a 36 monster if you use 2 ritual monsters. And then if you use 3 ritual monsters, it can't be targeted and gains an additional 1200 attacks. So it becomes like a 4/8 monster that can't be targeted, destroyed by battle or card effects, which is fairly solid, really. Right, so the general idea is to stop your opponent on their turn 1 and then beat stick them into the Shadow Realm on your subsequent turn. Megalith can go second, but monster negation is a bit of an issue, so something like Appaloosa, where you're not really putting any sort of damage on board using normal summons is going to be a massive problem. So for relevance, I'm giving them a 3. It's nowhere near as close in terms of power ceiling, you know, if you're not using Linkross and Crystal Halqifibrax. But in terms of, you know, boredom and seeing the same combo over and over again, you know, I prefer it, and I think that the lifetime of this version of the deck is probably much greater than that. In terms of fun factor, I really like the deck. It's got loads of options and different play lines. Your turn does take an age, especially on turn 1. But it's really, you know, fascinating to try and work your way through, you know, to your stun and your, you know, your Bethor play. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 for fun factor. This version is actually fairly cost effective, mostly because we're not playing, you know, that huge priced cards that the combo variant is. I've estimated this profile at about $130 for the deck. So what do you think? Is the only viable option the combo form? Or does the stun variant seem enough to keep rituals in the game? Thanks for watching. Sir Slobs out.